Hot D Season 3 reaches several of the same landmarks as Fire and Blood. The Gullet happens, Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, Criston Cole gets arrowed, and the season ends at Tumbleton. But almost none of those events happen for exactly the same reason, with exactly the same people, or in exactly the same order. The clearest example is Daemon at Tumbleton. In the book, he simply isn't there. So this is every major Season 3 change that alters a battle, a death, a character arc, or what the final season now has to resolve. Not every changed line, cloak, or council chair. We'd be here until Season 4. One morning, though. Fire and Blood is an in-world history. Its sources contradict each other, exaggerate, and sometimes admit they don't know what happened. When the book is uncertain, I'll keep it uncertain. Full spoilers for Season 3 and Fire and Blood ahead. Rhaena replaces Nettles. The first major change starts with a character the show removed. In the book, Sheepstealer is claimed by Nettles, a lowborn girl raised in Spicetown and Hall on Driftmark. She brings him a freshly killed sheep every morning until the wild dragon starts trusting her. She earns a dragon through patience, fresh sheep, and what has to be the worst morning chore in Westeros. Whether Nettles has Targaryen blood is never confirmed. That uncertainty matters because she may prove dragon riding isn't limited to one magical family. The series gives her material to Rhaena. Rhaena finds Sheepstealer in the Vale, becomes his rider, and discovers she can barely control him. His attack at the Gullet distracts Jace and helps create the moment that gets him killed. After the Gullet, Rhaena runs away and tries to hunt Aemond and Vhagar herself. Daemon eventually finds her and offers to help, but Rhaenyra and Addam arrive before they ever become a hunting team. In the book, that role belongs to Nettles. She and Daemon go into exile together and begin hunting Aemond and Vhagar. So this isn't a simple rider swap. The role of a mysterious outsider is handed to Daemon's daughter. Sheepstealer becomes connected to Jace's death, and only the parts of the disputed Daemon-Nettles relationship the show actually adapts become a direct father-daughter story. It also leaves Rhaena's actual book dragon, Mourning, unresolved. The Gullet is almost a different battle. The Battle of the Gullet keeps its central tragedy. Jace and Vermax die. Almost everything around it changes. In the book, the Triarchy intercepts the ship carrying Rhaenyra's younger sons. Little Aegon escapes on the mortally wounded Stormcloud, who dies after bringing him home. Viserys is captured, and Dragonstone believes he is dead. Jace flies into battle looking for his brother. Addam, Hugh, Ulf, and Nettles support him from the beginning. Baela and Moondancer aren't there. Not late, not nearby. They simply aren't part of the battle. The show removes the princes from the battle, at least for now. It sends Jace and Baela first, keeps the other dragon seeds near Harrenhal until later, and introduces Rhaena on an uncontrollable Sheepstealer. It also refocuses the attack around High Tide and Corlys. Shirako Lohar dies in the show but survives in the book. Tyland is put on Lohar's ship and thrown overboard, while Book Tyland remains in King's Landing. Fire and Blood devastates both High Tide and Spicetown, and it includes Stormcloud's sacrifice and Viserys' capture. The series still destroys the Tide, but it drops Spicetown and removes the prince's storyline from the Gullet. For now, while making Rhaena's mistake part of Jace's death. Same dead prince, very different chain of responsibility. Alicent changes the fall of King's Landing. Rhaenyra still takes King's Landing while Aemond and Vhagar are away. But television gives Alicent a role she absolutely doesn't have in the book. Alicent secretly promises Rhaenyra the city, pushes Aemond to leave, tells the guards to stand down, and tries to make the takeover peaceful enough for her and Helaena to escape. In Fire and Blood, she fights to preserve green rule. She urges Aemond to be cautious, sends for him and Cole, and calls for help. The Gold Cloaks stop her messages because they remain loyal to Daemon. Rhaenyra and Daemon take the city with Corlys's fleet, the Gold Cloaks' loyalty, and the surviving Black Dragon Riders. The show keeps Rhaenyra and Daemon at the center, adds Hugh and Ulf to the assault, and removes Corlys's fleet from the takeover. Gwain's fate changes too. He serves inside the City Watch in the book, and is killed by Luther Largent when the Gold Cloaks turn. In the series, Gwain campaigns with Cole, survives the city's fall, and Luther is later killed by Ormond's agents. Also in the book, Aegon, Jaehaera, and Maelor escape the Red Keep together through hidden passages. They're sent to different hiding places afterward. The show moved Aegon's escape to the end of Season 2 and left Helaena and Jaehaera behind. Even Otto's execution changes. The book records him among the first Green Loyalists put to death. The series makes him Larys's hidden prisoner and has Rhaenyra personally behead him before taking the throne. The destination stays the same. Alicent changes almost every road leading there. Rhaenyra's first months as queen are rebuilt. Once Rhaenyra has the capital, the show gives her a much softer opening than the book. Fire and Blood describes executions, a relentless search for Aegon, and an empty treasury answered with harsh new taxes. Bartimus Celtigar becomes Master of Coin, Maester Gerardis comes from Dragonstone, and Alicent is kept in golden chains. The series goes the other way at first. Rhaenyra pardons lords who swear loyalty, keeps Orwyle as Grand Maester, appoints Torrhen Manderly, seizes food from wealthy nobles, and distributes it to the small folk. Alicent and Helaena remain hostages, but they still have chambers, attendants, and surprising freedom.
No. No, it's blocked.
Myssaria's relationship changes completely too. In the histories, Mysaria serves Rhaenyra as an unofficial spy master while also remaining Daemon's lover. The show makes her Rhaenyra's lover and closest advisor, creating tension with Daemon that isn't on the page. The book begins Rhaenyra's reign with punishment and financial collapse. The show begins with a real attempt to win the people over. By Targaryen Civil War standards, that is almost responsible government. Daeron loses the battle that made him the Daring. Daeron enters Season 3 without the event that earns his famous name. In Fire and Blood, the Hightower army is nearly defeated at the Honeywine. Daeron arrives on Tessarion, turns the battle, saves the host, and is knighted. That is why he becomes Daeron the Daring. The show skips the Honeywine and uses the nickname as Ormond's propaganda.
Then rise a knight, Sir Daeron the Daring.
Then it invents an entire fake Daeron operation. Ormond pretends to surrender, gives Daemon a white-haired decoy, and uses the distraction to seize Tumbleton. The boy's hair is dyed, and his mother is threatened to keep him quiet. None of that is in the book. Neither does Hugh's wife Cat or Daeron's role in the violence against her family. Book Daeron earns the nickname. Show Daeron gets it like a campaign slogan before the achievement arrives. The branding is very efficient, and by the finale, he isn't confirmed dead. He's missing. Aegon's missing chapter becomes a full story. Fire and Blood deliberately loses track of Aegon after he escapes King's Landing. He disappears from the historical record, then returns much later when the war has almost forgotten him. Aegon travels with Larys, forming the Crippled Brotherhood, is captured, then survives withdrawal and humiliation, and slowly reaches Rook's Rest and Sunfyre. The dragon's survival comes from the book, but the route changes. In Fire and Blood, Lord Mooton's men try to kill the wounded Sunfyre, and the dragon destroys them. The series builds the reunion around Aegon's own recovery. Then it adds something the book never gives us. Aegon confronting Aemond at Harrenhal. Book Aemond never kneels there, asks forgiveness for trying to kill his brother, or agrees to help him retake the throne. That reunion is the show's bridge into Season 4. And honestly, this is one of the easier changes to defend because the book leaves a blank space big enough to build inside. Aemond and Alys rewrite Harrenhal. Aemond's Harrenhal story keeps familiar pieces. Simon Strong dies, Cole leaves, and Alys Rivers becomes central. The order and meaning change completely. In Fire and Blood, Aemond arrives with Cole and an army. He takes Harrenhal, executes the Strongs, and keeps Alys beside him as a lover, captive, companion, or some mixture of the three. The sources disagree. Cole and Aemond later split over strategy. Cole marches south, Aemond stays. The show separates them before they even reunite. Aemond reaches Harrenhal alone, is wounded, and collapses in front of Alys. She hides him, heals him, and shapes what he sees. Alicent later arrives and tries to poison her son, but the attempt is discovered before it can kill him. Aegon follows with Sunfyre. Neither visit happens in Fire and Blood. The series also gives Daemon and Alys a long supernatural relationship before Aemond arrives. The book never records them interacting. So Book Alys enters history through Aemond. She spent most of last season psychologically tormenting Daemon, which apparently qualified her for round 2.
Stay back! Stay back!
Criston Cole dies almost the same way. Criston's death is one of the season's closest adaptations. His exhausted army finds what looks like a field of corpses. The dead rise, the greens are trapped, and Cole tries to trade his life for his soldiers. The answer is still arrows. The main change is who kills him. In Fire and Blood, Cole faces Garibald Grey, Pate of Longleaf, and Roderick Dustin. Red Rob Rivers and 2 longbowmen shoot him before he can draw his sword. The show gives the parlay to Oscar Tully and lets Black Ollie fire first. This isn't a new outcome. It is a compression of unfamiliar commanders into characters the series has already introduced. For once, the adaptation changes the faces more than the event. The Velaryon family moves early. Season 3 accelerates almost every important Velaryon relationship. In the book, Corlys presents Addam and Alyn as Laenor's sons. He asks Rhaenyra to legitimize them soon after Addam claims sea smoke, and Jace supports the request. Rhaenyra agrees, making Addam heir to Driftmark before the Gullet. The show waits until after Jace dies. Corlys admits the boys are his, asks for legitimacy, and is refused because Rhaenyra fears what recognizing powerful bastards would imply about her own sons. Baela and Alyn move forward too. The series begins their romance during the war, while Fire and Blood doesn't marry them until much later. Corlys's kidnapping by Aemond is also original. He isn't a Tumbleton hostage in the book. His later imprisonment comes after the betrayer's turn, when Rhaenyra becomes suspicious of Addam and Corlys helps him escape her arrest order. The show moves the rupture earlier, changes who claims the boys, and gives Corlys a conflict with Rhaenyra that the book saves for later. Daemon wasn't at Tumbleton. Tumbleton is the season's largest rewrite. In Fire and Blood, the Blacks already control the town. Riverlords and the Winter Wolves defend it because Ormond's army must pass through on the way to King's Landing. Ulf and Hugh are there as defenders. Daeron and Tessarion arrive with the Greens. Daemon and Caraxes aren't involved. Neither are Corlys or Gwaine. The show flips control of Tumbleton. Ormond captures it first, fills it with civilians, and turns it into bait. Rhaenyra sends forces to retake it, and Daemon leads the attack personally. That pulls nearly every major Season 3 character into one battlefield. Then the betrayal changes. In Fire and Blood, Ulf and Hugh deliberately turn on Rhaenyra. Silverwing and Vermithor burn the Black Army and help the Greens destroy the town. The historians suspect promises of land and status, but admit they don't truly know the motive. The show gives Ulf a clear path to the fire. Rhaenyra promises him a lord's life, then restricts and humiliates him. Ormond manipulates that resentment and pushes a drunk, angry dragon rider past the point where he cares which army is below. Ulf attacks both sides. Hugh doesn't betray Rhaenyra in the finale. He leaves his ground post to save Cat, finds her dead, and never mounts Vermithor. The series also repurposes later material. Bookulf sleeps through the Second Battle of Tumbleton. The finale moves that image forward by finding him passed out before this battle. Ormond and Roderick Dustin still destroy each other in broad terms, but the last beat changes. Roddy mortally wounds Ormond, then Silverwing's fire takes both men. So the finale combines the first Tumbleton, pieces of the second, later Betrayer stories, and original arcs. The map looks familiar, but the battle barely does. Helaena dies far too early. Helaena dies in both versions. The timing changes almost everything around it. In the book, she already has Jaehaerys, Jaehaera, and Maelor before Blood and Cheese. She survives Rhaenyra's capture of King's Landing and remains alive through several events the series hasn't reached. Helaena survives the first Battle of Tumbleton. She dies later in the war, after Maelor's death at Bitterbridge and around the time of the battle above the God's Eye. The histories speculate that Mysaria told her about Maelor's brutal death, and that the news pushed her to jump. They also preserve rumors of murder. The book gives no certain answer. Season 3 replaces that sequence with captivity, pregnancy, prophecy, and the tapestry. Helaena is pregnant with a son, a story that appears to replace Maelor, who is already alive in the book. Rhaenyra keeps Helaena as leverage, orders her force-fed, and refuses to promise freedom for her or the unborn child. Mysaria warns her that Aegon and Sunfyre have returned, and that the baby can be used against her. Helaena chooses death before the child is born. That removes, or radically rewires, Maelor's escape, Bitterbridge, Daeron's revenge, and the original timing of the uprising after Helena's fall. This isn't just moving a death forward. That means the series now has to remove or radically rebuild an entire chain of future events. Rhaenyra creates a new religious crisis. The High Septon storyline is almost completely invented. In the book, the faith center is still in Old Town. Rhaenyra doesn't repeatedly ask a High Septon in King's Landing to anoint her, and she doesn't order Alyn to execute him when he refuses. The book's unrest grows from war, hunger, an empty treasury, taxes, executions, and fear of dragons. Season 3 turns legitimacy into a religious battle. Rhaenyra tries to win the faith's blessing. When that fails, she kills the priests who reject her, appears in black armor, claims the gods of old Valyria chose her, and publicly declares herself the prince that was promised. That declaration isn't in Fire and Blood. Ryan Condal has described it as something absent from both the book and the historical record, a seismic change in Rhaenyra's relationship with the people. It also changes the prophecy's purpose. Viserys treated Aegon's dream as a private burden passed from ruler to heir. Rhaenyra turns it into public proof that no church, council, or rival has the right to deny her. Book Rhaenyra loses support through the brutal realities of ruling during a civil war. Show Rhaenyra also begins treating political disagreement as resistance to destiny itself. That is a much more personal kind of tyranny. Season 3 doesn't abandon the broad history of Fire and Blood. It keeps the landmarks and redraws almost every road between them. Rhaena replaces Nettles, Alicent hands over King's Landing, Daeron loses the battle that made him famous, Aegon gets a journey the book hides, Helaena dies before Maelor is born, and Daemon fights at a battle he never attended. For me, Tumbleton is the biggest single rewrite. Helena's early death creates the biggest ripple, because it means the show will have to remove or rebuild the chain connecting Maelor, Bitterbridge, Daeron, and King's Landing. And Aegon's missing chapter is probably the easiest invention to defend, because the book genuinely leaves room for it. And yeah, those are 12 of the biggest changes House of the Dragon made from the book this season, at least the ones I could actually verify. If you enjoyed this breakdown, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscribe. I'm still pretty new to YouTube, and it genuinely helps me keep making more in-depth videos like this. But I'm curious, which change do you think actually improved the story, and which one creates the biggest problem for Season 4? Let me know below. And if you want the finale itself broken down, from Ulf's betrayal to Helena's tapestry, my Season 3 ending explained video is on screen now.